There was a bankruptcy that was concocted right after the Great Depression, when many of our grandparents were still struggling to survive. And what happened was they were expatriated. They had no knowledge of this. They certainly did not give their consent. America's gold was stolen by the international bankers. Our gold and silver was stolen. And we were collateralized as a nation against this concocted debt. What was collateralized? Our property, our equity, our children, and our souls. So I won't get into how the souls become collateralized because that's a different conversation. We're a nation, we're USA Inc., and we're running on a corporate structure. It has a very significant structure. It's based on contracts that have been signed for us and implemented for us, and you don't know about this. They don't think that you need to. We're not running America. Globalists are running America. And when you look at Senate Report 93549, it's very, very clear. Our country, every year since 1933, has initiated a perpetual emergency war powers. Every year, it's reinitiated by every sitting president. And what that means is that when we're under a perpetual emergency powers act, the Constitution has been suspended. The Senate Report 93549, which identifies all of you and me as enemies of the government. Then you build upon the silent weapons document, which is a technical research manual that was put together in the 40s by the U.S. Air Force, Rockefeller, the international bankers, and Harvard University. It is a manual that is intended for economic domination of the world and control of all energy. And it's important to understand, they plan to control it all. Now, they say in the Silent Weapons Quiet Wars document that when you have a few wealthy people with the methodologies and the goal to control all energy on the planet, and they have not told us, it is considered a declaration of war. And so the Silent Weapons document is a declaration of war. In fact, William Cooper has it in the very front of his book, Behold a Pale Horse. Now, the reason why the Silent Weapons document is so important is they wrote it, and it's in their words. Now, many of you are noticing the cameras everywhere. They're on all the street corners, they're up the freeways, they're on buildings, they're everywhere. There's sensors everywhere. The surveillance in the United States has already imprisoned us. And the definition, they say, is when a silent weapon is applied gradually, the public adjusts and adapts to its presence and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, both psychological and economic, become too great and they crack up. They also tell us, therefore, the silent weapon system is a type of biological warfare. It attacks our vitality, our options, our mobility of individuals of a society by knowing. That's the data collection. That's Bluffdale, Utah. That's the cameras. That's all the tracking. That's the camera in your computer screen when you're sitting behind your computer. That is the flicker rate, and that's what's happening on your televisions. Everything that's coming wireless into your home.
So as we come further back, we'll see how far it stays past 100. This is considered extremely dangerous. Still is. As long as it's past 3, it's dangerous. We're all the way past there. Now getting closer, let's see when it stops. It's at 100. We're about 4.5 feet away right now. Immediately back to 0. So that's how dangerous the microwave. So in addition to taking all the vitamins and nutrients and radiating your food, the microwave, just standing within about 4.5 to 5 feet of it, is dangerous for you because of all the magnetic rays that it has. This example is this is a standard Mac laptop computer. So we put this on top, and as you can see, we're still in the 0 to 100 range. It immediately goes way off the charts past 100. And what does that mean to you? These are something that people keep on their laps. So we look here, going back. As soon as I get within a couple inches of it, it goes way off the chart. Now remember, 3 is what's dangerous. We're all the way up past 100 when I touch it. So what does that mean? You don't want to put a laptop on your lap. That's why Apple is no longer calling these laptops. They're calling them personal computers. Because when you put this on the lap, you're having it right on top of your reproductive organ.
Notice that this modem is innocently sitting here, apparently doing nothing. However, when we turn on the radio frequency meter, it is measuring the transmission of the wireless coming out of this modem. And you can see that the peak signal strength on the left column of this meter is at almost 6 volts per meter. That's as high as it goes. I'm going to show you the office is back in that direction through those doors. And although the reading is down a little bit on the meter, you can still see that the whole house is more or less being influenced by this radio frequency transmission. This is where I sleep. These are not high readings, but it's still going to disturb melatonin levels. It's still going to disturb my sleep.
You can look at Mount Weather, W-E-A-T-H-E-R. It is a underground facility that was built about 47 miles outside of Washington, D.C. in the 50s. And it houses the intention to incarcerate every single one of us with data collection and tracking and monitoring and sensors. So what you're hearing Edward Snowden say is not a new revelation at all. We were told in the silent weapons document exactly what they intended to do. They talk about wanting to know, and keeping in mind this was put together in the 40s. And it was adopted at the very first Bilderberg meeting in 1954 in the Netherlands. And they wanted to know back then, in the 40s, about each and every single one of you. The what, where, why, when, how, and who. They were going to look at general sources of information. They were going to look at telephone taps. This is in the 40s. Behavior of your children in school. They would know your friends, your associations, your political affiliation. They would know your personal paper trail because they would know your banking account statements, your credit card purchases. Everything was tagged and planned to be tagged back in the 40s with the Universal Product Code. This is no new news.
If Hitler had won World War II. But this is a very different America than the one we know.
We know the source of America's troubles.
In this America, technology is used to intimidate and control. Citizens are under constant surveillance by secret police.
From foreign influence.
Fascism is always dependent on repression. Secret police, some state control that tamps down any opposition.
Living under Nazi rule would be absolutely terrible. Then people act like it's all okay, but look deep into their eyes. They're absolutely miserable.
For nearly 70 years, they have used technological advances to control and oppress the population. The government-controlled internet is the newest weapon of mass deception. Social media promotes Nazi values.
It's important to remember that any innovation or any technology can be weaponized. The Twitter and Facebooks of the world can be corrupted and used in a totalitarian way for surveillance or whatever.
Today, Totalitarian governments throughout the world use social media technology for surveillance and to control their populations.
When we look at China, for example, they have tens of thousands of people whose job it is to monitor what people are doing on the internet.
Then people act like it's all okay, but look deep into their eyes. They're absolutely miserable.
Now, I found it interesting when I listened to Bill Gates on TED Talk. And he said that the world has 6.8 billion people, and that's headed up to about 9 billion. Now he says, quote, "Now if we really do a great job on new vaccines and healthcare, reduction of health services, we could lower the number of people." Now, Bill Gates goes on to further say if he only had one wish, he would want there to be 0 CO2 emissions by the year 2050. Now, we're all dead if that occurs because we need CO2. The plants survive, the earth survives, we survive. And the bulk of the population now believes the demonization of CO2 emissions, just like fossil fuels are dead, decaying dinosaurs. This is the Iron Mountain Report. It's a blueprint for tyranny. It came out of the 1960s. They commissioned experts to look at what the United States would look like if we should transition out of a time of war into a golden age of peace. And Kennedy was assassinated prior to the completion of this report. And when this report was given to Johnson, he said because of the content, it's never to be given to the American people. Well, a whistleblower leaked this document, and the government said it was a hoax. Our parents believed it was a hoax if they were not too busy to even know that it existed at the time. It's so important to understand this. And what is this? Well, the Iron Mountain Report talks about how they were going to subvert education, exactly what Orlean and others in this room have been fighting so hard against.
So this is a dovetail.
Don't stand for this. Fine, you're sitting here like cattle. You have questions. You confront them. They don't want to do it in public.
Okay, the next
Excuse me, buddy. Hey, this is America. This is not a CNN political debate. You're managing. You don't really want to. Hey, that's right.
They needed something so horrific and so impactful that it would be believable globally and it would injure every single one of you, equal to the effects of war. So they decided that that needed to be invented, and they invented global warming. They said at the time that they would have to bring the ecology up to enough damage by damaging the ecology with the corporate structure. NASA and the corporations have damaged our world intentionally to seduce us into the false illusion that it's our fault, that we have to now believe in scarcity and we now have to rein in the population because there's too many of us.
We know more clearly than ever before that we carry common burdens, face common problems, and must respond with common action. And second, as we travel through space, as we pass one dead planet after another, we look back on our Earth, a speck of life in an infinite void.
Now, what is also very important is what Rothschild discovered about energy. He said he discovered there was a basic principle of power, influence, and control over people as applied in economics. The principle is very simple. Quote, "When you assume the appearance of power, people soon give it to you." So we've had a great many people assume the position of power. And because we have been intentionally kept very busy, we have given our trust to those that represent us, and they don't.